Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Shankly Gates podcast. Tonight, I'm joined by Dan and Paul. You all right, lads?
Yeah, good, mate. You?
Oh, yeah, very good, mate. As ever, lots to talk about tonight. Of course, we'll start with another sensational Reds performance. So we destroyed Man United 4-0. Then we'll move on. We'll talk about, obviously, Liverpool reaching another FA Cup final after beating Man City 3-2. And to top it all off, we've got just a small match of the Merseyside derby to look forward to. But we'll start with Man United. Dan, nice and straightforward, 4-0. Doesn't get much better than that, does it, mate?
No, it doesn't. And not only the result, it was the performance to go with it as well. I mean, our results of late have been decent, but I think we'd all probably just about agree our performances haven't been fantastic at times. We've been kind of just getting the job done recently, but that was everything. It was clinical, it was precise, it was a joy to watch. And yeah, that was what this Liverpool team's all about. And obviously the fact that it was United makes it all the more sweeter as well.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely smashed them in the performance as well. Sensational. Paul, so obviously 4-0 at home, not to mention the 5-0 thrashing in the year. Are we ever likely to see that ever again? Smashing them twice in the same season?
Well, you would hope so, but I think it'd be very difficult, wouldn't it? People who are similar age to myself will have grown up through the 90s and the early noughties, having a lot of negative results against Manchester United. So the two results that we've had against them this season have been really sweet. I think it's nearly 4 years now since they beat us, and long may it continue. But I think, just to touch on what you said, I think one of the most pleasing aspects of it is that, it wasn't just the result, it was the performance that went with it as well.
Absolutely, mate. We've had a few, obviously we've been getting through games recently, but certainly we'll touch on it later. The City game as well, and last night we were sensational. Dan, we started up, absolutely flying out the traps, didn't we? And we were 1-0 inside 5 minutes.
Yes, mate. Yeah, and it was a weird one because when I seen their team news, listen, we're light years ahead of where they are right now, regardless of who they put out, and pretty much regardless of who we put out. But having said that, when I seen their team and their formation, I thought 5 at the back, that's a serious risk on their behalf, considering they don't normally play it. And essentially within the first 4 minutes, we'd carved them open. They were all over the place, and they looked like a side who never played 5 at the back before, because they just had players out of position everywhere. And we had Trent and Salah just running at essentially nobody. So, yeah, great football from us. Great sort of wherewithal to spot that danger, pull people out of position and capitalise on it. And obviously Salah with the pass. We all love Mohamed Salah, but he's half selfish sometimes. But we love him for it because his goal record is ridiculous. But that's what he's added to his game this year. That weighted pass for Diaz. It's a relatively straightforward ball, but he gets it absolutely spot on. And Diaz doesn't have to break stride, and it's just so simple in the end. It's great to watch.
Definitely, mate. One perfect way to start the game, 1-0. So obviously the goal scorer, Luis Diaz. Paul, I haven't spoken to you in a while, so I'm not sure I've had your thoughts on him. But yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on Luis Diaz, what you've seen so far as a player. He's absolutely sensational so far, isn't he, mate?
Yeah, very impressed. I think, when we seen him against us, he didn't stand out. That as when I say didn't stand out, sometimes you look at a play and you just go, wow. Against us, he never really had that. But since he's come over, he settled in. I think he made his debut in the FA Cup, didn't he? And within sort of 5-10 minutes, he looked like he'd sort of never been away. He'd never been anywhere but here all of his life. He's relatively young. He's got probably the next sort of 10 years if he wants it at the club. His work rate is phenomenal. It is. I think what I like about him is, and don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not comparing him to Luis Suarez, but he's got battling qualities that were akin to Luis Suarez. That people kick him and it doesn't seem to faze him. I know we're going back a few weeks, but I think back to the Brighton goal where he got cleaned out, and after a couple of minutes of, you know, a bit of treatment and a bit of water, he was fit enough to carry on and play. There's a lot of players there who may not have fancied the rest of that game. So it's not just his ability, it's his attitude, his work rate, and everything. And if you've got all of them combined in one, then you've got a good chance to succeed at Liverpool, because us as the supporters really appreciate that type of attitude.
No, absolutely, mate. He's been sensational so far. I'm glad you brought that Brighton goal, because I can't remember who it was, but I think he's the only one of certainly the front three of who played yesterday just stuck his head in there. So definitely got, as you say, he's got that bravery, and he looks like he could be, you know, a really good one for the future, as we've spoken about. Well, I'll stay with you, Paul. That second goal, mate. You know, 25 passes, only Van Dijk who didn't touch it. I was in the ground myself. I didn't really celebrate it. I was just in absolute shock at what I seen. That was quite literally poetry in motion, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, I think I'm a firm believer that, you know, teams reflect their manager's image, and I think Klopp and his coaches, when they dream of what goals look like, I think that will be pretty similar to what they dream of. 25 passes uninterrupted. Everybody bar Van Dijk got a touch of the ball in the move. The actual move started off sort of 5 yards outside of the Manchester United penalty area with Luis Diaz. 25 passes later, it's being passed back to Alisson, wide, left and right, over towards Trent Alexander-Arnold, back inside, and then the one touch from Matip into Mane and the flick round the corner was just phenomenal. It really is. As I say, I think Klopp and his coaching staff would be going home very, very happy after seeing goals like that last night.
Absolutely. That was, I think it was the perfect goal. Just the build-up play, and then just the last few passes, bang, bang, Mane over the top, Salah touch and finish. Dan, it like I said, it doesn't get much perfect in that, does it, mate? Got to be a strong contender for goal of the season, I think.
Yeah, that actually crossed my mind last night. I mean, when you think about goals of the season, you often think about sort of like worldies from long range, don't you? Like the Trent one, and even individual pieces of genius, like we've seen a couple of times from Salah. And the Trent one against Newcastle, I was referring to at home, that absolute thunderbolt. But yeah, when you sort of take into account the team element of that goal, I think it's right up there. I mean, obviously, there are individual moments of quality within that. I mean, Sadio Mane, the vision to even think about that pass is one thing, but then to execute it as well as he did is phenomenal. And Salah's touch and finish as well, it's got everything. Like it is that right at the top drawer.
Absolutely, mate. And just on that, I'll stay with you, Dan. Obviously, 2 goals on the night for Mo Salah and an assist. Is not, you not really call it a drought, but is that him being back to his best now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he's shown signs of being back to his best. There's no doubt about it. Like when he first came back from the World Cup qualifiers this time, wasn't it? And AFCON prior to that, his form had dipped slightly. And I think a part of that was the way he has to play for Egypt is so much of it depends on him. Like he has to be the man to make things happen. And I think when he came back, there's a little element of him almost still playing that way and trying to do a little bit too much. Whereas at Liverpool, he's got players around him that are equally adept, nearly as he is. You know what I mean? Especially Trent behind him. So I think we've just seen signs against City the other day, and definitely yesterday, of him getting back to his best. Yeah, he is. And what a time to get back into form as well, by the way.
No, mate, definitely a squeaky bum time, as it was once referred to. And we're certainly, doing that. Just certainly the one, the second goal, the touch and the finish there. That's prime Salah. That's just, fantastic. That's what we'll definitely need when we, get a game where we don't make, loads of chances and we've got to take one. So obviously we go on to, win 3 or 4-0. But Paul, I just, want to talk about who I think, I would agree, everyone's man of the match was yesterday. And Thiago Alcantara, mate, he's certainly shown the best, certainly at the weekend against City, but last night he was different class, wasn't he, mate?
It's absolutely phenomenal. I think he had a little bit of a slow start to his life at Liverpool, through probably no fault of his own. You know, there was probably the tempo is slightly different to what he's used to. And then also we had a couple of injuries and things. And, you know, there was doubts from certain quarters of whether he was going to be suitable for Liverpool's style. And it's funny because a lot of those tweets have been resurfacing over the last sort of 24 to 48 hours. And, you know, I think you've got to give him credit because he's stepped up when it's come to the crunch. You know, talking of the second goal last night, I think there was a ball from Thiago, probably, you know, a 40-yard diagonal ball out wide to Trent Alexander-Arnold as part of that move. And it was inch perfect. There was a section in the Man City game in the second half where he took a ball down on his chest, sort of ran away from the City man, and then outside of the right foot curled it, you know, out wide towards Liverpool's right-hand side. And it's just to have that vision and that ability to pull that off inch perfect time after time. It's just phenomenal. And, you know, I think key to Liverpool's, well, I don't like to use the word success because I think whatever happens this season, it's been phenomenal. But I think the key to Liverpool's sort of midfield in the next 10 to 11 games, hopefully, is keeping Thiago fit. I really do.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. We miss him unbelievably when he's not there. And I think we all said it last season, or when we had those injury problems at the back, we ended up playing Fabinho, Henderson at the back. We said at the time, you know, with Thiago, it looked like he was struggling, but it was because he didn't have, you know, Fabinho and Henderson there in the midfield with him, or Naby Keita. This season, we're definitely seeing the best of him, and it definitely shows. Dan, on Thiago, mate, not so. He's just a joke, isn't he? I know he was afforded a lot of time on the ball, but he's still got to play the passes. And all that, and not to mention that, still loves throwing a tackle, and it's not just, you know, all about the passing side of the game. He's got more strings to his bow, hasn't he, mate?
Yeah, he definitely has. That was a complete midfield performance yesterday. But not only was it like it was superb, wasn't it? In the way his passing accuracy and all the statistics you come out with from that game, where he was right up there all the time. But it was just the audacity he was doing stuff with as well. He was like enjoying himself. Like, not only was he making like good passes and high quality passes, he was making them with like a swagger. He's a real like maverick, and he's just a joy to watch. I mean, you sit there and you watch him, and you almost find yourself laughing at some of the stuff he pulls off. And he does give the ball away on occasion, but I just think that's because he's trying stuff all the time. Like, he tries passes that previous midfielders and current ones we've got would never even dream of. And like 99 times out of 100, that comes off and away we go. And he gets us on the front foot so often. He's absolutely exceptional. And like Paul said, he's dead right. Like, if we are going to achieve, you know, nigh on the impossible this season, having him there between now and the end of it will be crucial, because not only is he world class, but also he's been there and done it so many times before. Like, we're talking about a seasoned, trophy-laden professional footballer who has been at the very highest level and, you know, turned up time and time again. So between now and the end, we've basically got 10 cup finals left, and we need him for all of them.
Yeah, it does remind me of a debate we had a few weeks ago of who is Liverpool's most important player. Yeah. And to be honest, you could easily throw him into the mix there. If you put him on top form, well, you know, for what he does in the midfield, and without him, we just, you know, it's completely different. So fingers crossed he stays fit, because if he does, you know, as we've said for a while, we could be in for a lot of trophies here. Anyway, lads, we'll move it on anyway. As much as we'd love to go on about Man United, you know, smashing Man United all night, just one thing I do want to touch upon, which, you know, it's, again, you're hardly surprised by it, but you know, it did happen. Just the horrible chanting, you know, about, you know, Hillsborough and everything. I'll start with you, Paul. You were obviously you were at Wembley on Saturday, weren't you, mate? Just I got that right,
yeah.
haven't I? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah.
Obviously, I just want to get your take on what you heard, what you saw, and just you're not surprised, are you? But enough's enough now, isn't it, mate? Something it's got to be done about it now. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I think there's two elements to look from. First of all, it's the idiots that are doing it, and clearly the either ignorance or the lack of education that they've had in their past, and they're clearly getting their education from the wrong people. And then there's also the media and their apparent reluctance to call it out. First of all, I think if we go back to Saturday, I think with Manchester City, they are desperate to force a rivalry. And the way I explained it, I don't know if you've seen on my Twitter, but the last 2 weeks that we played Man City, I didn't have one butterfly. Yes, it's a big game, but they're not a rival to me. They're just a club who have got an excellent team at the moment. And yet yesterday, from the minute I opened my eyes to probably the second goal, I had nothing but butterflies. And it doesn't matter how poor United are at the moment. It's the fact that it's Manchester United, it's your rival. And that's the difference. And I think City want that. They want that with Liverpool. And it's not going to happen. Rivalries happen naturally. So using, the deaths of people at football and tragedies to try and create one, for me, is idiotic at best. We then move on to yesterday. And, it's chants that we've heard for years. And, there's a certain social media page that has memories pop up on days, and you can always tell when we've played Man United or Everton, because my memories are always sweepstakes of how long it's going to take for them to sing these type of songs. We know it'll happen again on Sunday, and like you say, enough's enough. It's time that the media started calling it out now. To point score, I'm all right for whatever you want to call it, banter, if you want to call it banter, or give an opposition stick, about poor performances. I can take the Steven Gerrard slip and all this sort of stuff. But when you start bringing things like that involved, and it says a lot more about you than it does about the people that are listening to it. And I just want to make a point that on the 7th minute yesterday, obviously the whole of Anfield stood up and applauded, something that many of us probably can't even imagine what Cristiano Ronaldo and his family are going through. And I know which set of supporters I'm more proud to be associated with.
No, mate, here on that point, that was tragic news when it came through. I think it was on the Sunday, and no, yeah, obviously everyone wishes Cristiano the best after that. No one should have to ever go through that. But Dan, on the point, mate, obviously I believe City and United since then have both come out and condemned the fans for the chants. But do you honestly see it changing?
No, not particularly. But Paul's dead right, because we obviously had a conversation earlier on this year after the Chelsea chant was condemned, and rightfully so. And we spoke about it and said, listen, it needs to stop because it's gone too far now, and X, Y, Z. And I haven't heard it since. I go to a fair amount of games, perhaps not as many as you two, but I go to a decent amount, and I haven't heard it. But there's time for the same conversation to happen about the chants we're talking about now. If the media were more than willing to open up the conversation about that, where's the same noise for this? I don't get it. And the City one disappointed me. Obviously, it's awful. We don't like it. Nobody wants it. It's grim. It's just grim. But the United one yesterday annoyed me even more. Now, whilst I understand the rivalry is a lot more deep-rooted and it is a lot more bitter and there is a little bit of hatred to it, etc., etc., the fact that Liverpool rightfully found it within themselves as a football club and as a fan base to mark, I suppose is the word, the tragic event that did happen with Cristiano Ronaldo, and the entire crowd stood up and applauded, which was a really poignant, nice moment. I really thought it was a good move from us. I really liked it. But then that's then reciprocated an hour later, maybe not even that, by chants about catastrophic events that have happened to Liverpool supporters. I mean, it's just, is it ignorance? Is it stupidity? I just don't get it. If I heard what went on in the 7th minute, I'd think twice. I wouldn't do it in the first place, but I'd certainly think twice about then chanting an hour later at the same set of supporters. Like, I know the result's gone badly for them, But sometimes there's a little bit more to it than that, a bit more to life than that. You know what I mean? Like, we all live and breathe football, but like have a little bit of common sense and a little bit of decency and a little bit of class. And there was none of that last night from Manchester United fans.
No, mate, you're dead right. I think it is complete and utter ignorance. They just, don't take into account what they're singing. They just sing it because they've, not for banter reason, but they just, really want to,
They got nothing else. They got nothing else to sing about, have they?
Yeah.
Their team
Not
is
really.
Their team is shambolic. Their
Yeah.
team is shambolic, and it's been absolutely torn apart by Liverpool, who were their most hated rivals. What they got to sing about? They can't sing about Liverpool not being any good because it's not true. They can't sing about them being good because that's not true either. So they've got to pick something.
Well, sadly, but it's not really an excuse.
No, of course it's not. But that's yeah.
But no, and they'll get condemned as much. You can condemn as much as possible. There has to, you're both right. The media have to come out, and they're the ones that have got to change this one. Otherwise, there's going to be no change, and we're going to be talking about it from seasons to come.
I think, Kieran, just very quickly. I think what disturbs me the most is, and I am generalising here, but I think a lot of it is coming from people who probably weren't even born in 1989. And a lot of it then refers to, well, the whataboutery of, well, you done this in 85 and all the rest of it. And again, it's coming from people, and that's what I was alluding to about education. It's coming to people who are listening to the dads and things who are just talking absolute drivel and swallowing lies that have been spread left, right, and centre. And actually, again, I just want to touch on the comments around justice for the 39 and all this sort of stuff. I genuinely believe if they cared that so much, why aren't they? I mean, let's be honest, there were criminal charges made in 1985. I'm not excusing it. It happened. But for them to then use it as a point scoring and it makes me cringe even more when people say like 39 Italians, and I find it so disrespectful because it wasn't 39 Italians. There was Belgians involved, and it's just they're using it to score points. They don't actually care about 97 lives lost or 39 lives lost. They're just using it to score points, and it knocks me sick, and it's got to be knocked on the head.
Mate, spot on. Couldn't agree more. We'll leave it there anyway. We'll get back to the football. Talk about happier topic. Obviously, Paul, you were there, mate. 3-2 win over Man City. That blew them away in the first half, didn't we, mate? That was that was the start of definitely the running. That was a real marker to put down, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I thought for 90 minutes we were excellent, but in two different ways. I thought the first half, not just the attacking intent, but the, knowing when to close down, knowing when to go and pressure, the clinical finishing, the forcing of the mistakes for Manchester City. And I've seen a few Man City fans saying, it was our C team or D team or whatever. And that's fine if that's how they want to dress it up. But make no bones about it, that whole team have made, double-figure appearances this season, each and every one of them. It wasn't like it was, lads out of the under-23 squad. These are all international footballers who've cost a lot of money, are earning a lot of money, and Liverpool made them look very, very ordinary for 45 minutes. I think, the fact that they are a decent side showed in the second half. I don't think you're ever going to go into a game where you're going to dominate 90 minutes, certainly against Manchester City. And I think after the 45-minute domination, City got an early goal, but I thought Liverpool were resolute. I thought we were very controlled in what we done. And actually, other than the second goal in the 91st minute, I can't really remember Man City having that many chances up until that point. And then, at 3-2, they did have another couple of corners and things, and Fernandinho maybe should have done better. But actually, it was probably Liverpool in the second half breaking away who had the more clear-cut chances, with Salah a couple of times and Firmino going through in the last minute. So I just thought over the 90 minutes, there was the attacking side in the first half, and then the sort of the management of the game in the second half, and knowing when to close down and when to sit off a little bit and things, which was absolutely outstanding on Saturday.
No, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think 3-2 absolutely flattered them, to be honest. I think that could have been an even wider scoreline another day. But no, you're totally right. Blew them away in the first half, and definitely, as you mentioned there, the game management. Dan, obviously they get the goal at the start of the second half, but we weren't at all worried, were you, at any point?
Not particularly, no, because like Paul alluded to there, it always felt like we could go up a gear if we needed to. It was very much game management, I felt, in the second half. And it's something we've seen a lot recently, actually. It's almost like we conserve energy within games because, as we all know, matches are coming thick and fast at the moment. And we haven't really got the scope to make wholesale changes because every game's so important. So instead, it seems like quite a lot of the time we're getting ahead in matches and then, I don't want to say taking our foot off the accelerator, but certainly managing moments and managing periods of the game. There's not a lot wrong with that. It's difficult against a side like Man City because they are so good and they are going to create moments. And they did create moments. But at the same time, it always felt as though if we needed to, we could go again, we could hurt them again. But thankfully, it never really got that precarious. Towards the end, maybe slightly, but that was more about timing than it was pressure.
Yeah, man, I agree. I mean, even if they score late on, it's never changing the outcome at all. I think I had a quote from Jack Grealish after the game saying if that game had gone to extra time, there was only going to be one winner. I don't know where where
and if my auntie had something else,
it was never going to extra time, and even if it did, it still backed us to get over the line anyway. Well, anyway, obviously, sees us through to the FA Cup final, Paul. But obviously there is a bigger picture. We have beat Man City. Obviously the way it is, obviously fighting for them in for the league title. The fact they're still in the Champions League. Do you think that result there and the way it happened? Do you think that'll have any bearing on the rest of the season?
It's possible. I think Liverpool learned a lesson in the second half of the league game at the Etihad, and that was that Man City, what they want you to do is chase them. If you try and close them down 10 times out of 10 when they're playing out from the back, they want to suck you in, and then it's why they play a long ball wide over to either Cancelo or Kyle Walker or whoever's playing, Zinchenko, whoever it may be who's playing, and then it's wide and into the box for the likes of De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva and things to get onto it from the crosses and the pullbacks. And I think Liverpool sort of realised that when you chase them, what they're looking to do is get the ball into centre of midfield so that they can play it out wide. And rather than go and chase them all the time, what Liverpool done was say, okay, centre-halves can have it. We're all right with the centre-halves having it. And we're just going to try and screen that pass into the likes of Fernandinho in the cup tie, or De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva in the league. So, and I think Liverpool learned that lesson in the second half and really sort of made it difficult for City in the league game. We then took that into the cup tie, and we've done the same again. Okay, there was the odd time where we did go chasing, i.e. Mane's goal, when the time was right. But for the majority of the game, we just allowed the centre-halves to have it and just screen that pass into the centre of midfield. So will it have a bearing on going forward? Well, who knows? We may have to play them again in another cup competition. So it may well do, unless City change their style. And, I find that very hard to see that they would change the style, because Guardiola is very similar to Klopp in the fact that they really believe in their philosophy and what they do. So I can't see them, not trying to play out from the back. Will it have an impact on the league? Well, I think that remains to be seen. There's 7 or 8 games left, depending on which team's fixtures you look at. And, it's at the end of the day, I think Liverpool have just got to concentrate on us and keep chipping away with 3 points and just see where it takes us.
Yeah, I think that's spot on from our point of view. Certainly, we can take so much from that game, and we can... definitely, as we showed last night, with full of confidence, came flying out the traps, and we can see us taking that full confidence in the other games. And with regards to City, they are a magnificent football team. They are they are going to lose games like that. It's how how they respond from that, which will be interesting to see. Whether they go, win the remaining league games, get through to the Champions League final, we'll wait and see. But we've got one more massive business anyway to deal with, lads. If this week wasn't long enough, Sunday, Dan, Merseyside derby.
Yep.
Well, to be honest, based after last night, you'd expect a better fight from Everton on Sunday than the one we got off United, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you certainly would. Yeah, you certainly would. That's one thing we can pretty much guarantee, which is saying something in itself, isn't it, about United's sorry state, really. But at the same time, you'd back us to sort of overcome them, wouldn't you, with our quality? Obviously, we're firing on all cylinders at the moment. They're going for a little bit of it. Well, a little bit is an understatement. They're going for a pretty rough patch. The one thing they have got is they've got something to play for, which could well be Premier League survival. Like, how often this time of the season you look at your fixtures, and this is a Merseyside derby anyway, so you'd expect an Everton side to come and put up a fight as really a bare minimum. But, you want to be playing teams that the season's done. They're sort of the ideal fixtures now, but this is an Everton side, obviously our cross-park rivals, and they've got Premier League survival to fight for. So, yeah, as you say, they're definitely going to be fronted up to us. They're going to be a challenge. They're going to put everything in and all of the above. But the way we're playing and the way they're playing, if it wasn't Liverpool-Everton, put it that way, if it was Liverpool against Brighton in the same form, it'd be a no-brainer, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? It'd just be an absolute no-brainer. But because it's Liverpool-Everton, it has that little bit of a twist to it, and there's a little bit of doubts creep in. But listen, at the minute, can I see anyone stopping us, particularly Everton? No, not really.
Yeah, but that's just what I wanted to, speak about, Paul. Obviously, whether it's Everton or not, whether it's a Merseyside derby or not, you look at the form we're in, and then you look at Everton's away record this season, which is absolutely abysmal. The fact it's a derby, does that, we probably asked this question every year, does that bring, the fact it's a derby into it, does it bring the two teams closer together, or is this going to be a case of, a team who's really strong at home and a team that can't get a point away from home to save their lives?
I think without going down into too many cliches, I think it does have an effect on it, because it is, I know we're talking about, and Klopp said we've got 11 cup finals, 10 now or whatever, but it genuinely is, their cup final. And I've already had the text messages to say, we hope we wreck your quadruple and all that. Nothing to do with them trying to stay up, just that they hope we wreck our quadruple. And that's fine if that's the mentality, but that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a battle. They're going to want to kick you. They're going to want to, get, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, they're going to want to drag you down to their level. And we've got to rise above that, and we've got to move the ball fast and get them chased. If they want to chase us, then fine, let them chase us. Move the ball fast, get it moving around, and hopefully, try and create various chances with quick pass and move football. But I do think, regardless of form book and all the rest of it, it will be a very tough game on Sunday, because, like Dan said, they're not going to come and wilt like Man United did. They are going to come and do everything they can to disrupt Liverpool.
No, mate, that's the one thing I couldn't get from Man United last night. I don't know, Neville alluded to it. The fact they were just so passive and just, let us win, basically, didn't throw a tackle in or anything. You're going to get that from Everton this weekend. Certainly the type of players that are going to do it. Big Duncan Ferguson's going to have his word. So, it's definitely going to be a tough game, Dan. We're going to look at it in terms of the team, obviously, from the Man United game. Do you see any changes, mate, or would you more than happily just say to the same 11, go out there and go and do it again?
I'd be happy to say go and do it again. To be honest with you, I've got no issues with that whatsoever. I do think there will be rotation, having said that, but I don't see anything wholesale between now and the end of the season. I think I tweeted yesterday, I alluded to this. I've seen a few people on Twitter sort of suggesting there could have been changes last night or potentially changes on Sunday. For me, the time for change is over. The only potential game we have left now whereby we could see genuine rotation is the Villarreal second leg, and that's not taking them for granted whatsoever. But if we were to put that tie to bed in the first leg, there is scope for changes. I don't expect we'll do that. I really don't, because I think Villarreal are better than we're giving them credit for, and I think they'll be difficult to beat. But that's the last game we potentially could make changes. For me now, if you're in the first 13, 14, 15 players and you're fit, you're in contention. You know, we've seen the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain come in at times, and Harvey Elliott, and I love Harvey Elliott. I think he's brilliant. But it's not going to happen now. I don't think we're going to see them people start these games. We're going to see the same 5 midfielders, the same 5 attackers, and the same 5/6 with Tsimikas back 4, and that's it. That's it. We're not going to see anything out of the ordinary. For me, they go again.
Yeah, man, I'd personally agree with you. I'd go with the same starting 11, yeah. But what are your feelings, Paul? Obviously, you take each game as it comes, don't you? Will there be any eye on the first leg of Villarreal on Wednesday, or just plain and simple, everything into this?
To be honest with you, I hope there isn't any eyes on Villarreal. You know, the next game is always your most important, and like we said, it's going to be tough. I think, yes, there may be a little bit of rotation, and I think I agree with Dan. I think, you know, the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain and things, they may come on for 10, 15 minutes if required. But I don't think they're going to be pushing for starting places. And again, I agree that it's probably going to be around the same sort of 15, 16 players who are pushing for these starting spots. I think we're in a good position at the moment that, you know, we could go with the same 11, but actually if we need to freshen it up, you've got maybe Keita, you've got Canate maybe, and you've got, you know, the 2 forwards who didn't start last night, which was obviously Jota and Firmino, who can all come in and not weaken the side. And that's a really good position to be in, because for far too long we've had players where when we've took them out the team, it dramatically weakens the side. And as it stands at the moment, we could potentially make 4 or 5 changes on Sunday if we need to, and the side won't be any weaker than the side that started last night. So that is a massive, massive plus for us at the moment. And I think all those players that we've just mentioned around the, you know, those sort of 14, 15 players, I think regardless of who starts, it will be a strong starting 11.
Absolutely. I think that's what we've been crying out for years for as well. You know, we have had a superb starting 11 all the time, but if you had a couple of injuries or plan A's not working, you know, plan B from the bench hasn't always been the best. And now you look at it and you think we can go right to, you know, the full-time whistle. And if we've got to make 3 changes and change if it's not going our way, we'll do so. And you'd give us full confidence to go and get the win. So just before we finish, lads, we just get a quick score prediction anyway for the derby then. Start with you, Dan.
Yeah, like I've said, I think it'd be a more difficult game than last night for all the reasons we've kind of outlined. But I just think the quality shines through at the end of the day. And what we have seen from Everton a lot is when they concede, they tend to capitulate. So I'll go 3-0 Liverpool.
3-0 for Dan, Paul.
You know, I don't like doing them, but
Yeah,
I will take a 95th minute Divock Origi winner any day of the week.
Absolutely, mate. And from my point of view, I think much like last, if we get an early goal, I can see it being 3 or 4. If we don't, we've got to be patient. I think we do that well also. So, you know, I'll probably I'll go 2-0. I think. Yeah, it's 2-0. You know, maybe we have to be a bit more patient in this one, but still back us. We keep a clean sheet. And like Paul says, if it only takes 1 in the last minute, it takes 1, and we get 3 points on the board. But anyway, that's all we've got time for this week on the Shankly Gates podcast. My thanks to Dan and Paul. Cheers for coming on, lads.
Thank you.
Mate.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back next week where obviously the semi-final of the Champions League rolls on. We'll speak about the derby and the games to come as well. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.